Let's start by just taking a deep breath, okay? Just settle in for a second. Think of this time right now as a dedicated, totally safe space. Just you and me, sitting down together as a team. We're going to untangle a really complex web that might be keeping you stuck. Look, if you've been feeling constantly off balance in a relationship, whether it's with a partner, a family member, or maybe even a colleague, I want to offer you a grounded, clinical look at what might actually be happening behind the scenes. We're going to put a name to the exact behaviors that leave you feeling so drained. And more importantly, I'm going to give you the specific tools and phrases to take your power back.
Did I do something wrong, or am I just being made to feel like I did? Really, take a moment and sit with that question. I know how heavy that burden of self-doubt is. I know what it feels like to constantly replay conversations in your head, wondering if your tone was too harsh, or if you're just asking for too much. It is an absolutely exhausting way to live. But what if that feeling of always being slightly in the wrong isn't actually a reflection of your character at all?
Listen to me. I want to speak directly to you right now. Your lived reality is completely valid. That confusion you've been carrying around, it's not actually yours. It was placed there, carefully, by someone who needs you to be uncertain. Every single tactic we are about to look at today relies on one thing, and one thing only: your confusion. They depend on you doubting yourself just enough to never fully trust what you already know in your gut. So let's start taking that confusion apart, piece by piece.
All right, let's dive right into the tactic that honestly does the most damage, and it does it so quietly. Gaslighting. You know the drill. You remember something clearly. The words they used, the tone, the exact moment it happened. And then someone looks you dead in the eye and calmly tells you it never happened. Full stop. For a split second you wonder, wait, maybe they're right? And that split second, that is all a manipulator needs. It's like a slow drip. One denied conversation, one rewritten memory, one quiet, you're just being too sensitive. Over time, these moments stack up until you literally stop trusting your own memory. That's not a misunderstanding. That is a calculated, clinical mechanism of control. A manipulator's absolute greatest weapon is your self-doubt.
So, what's our action plan here? How do we actually treat this? Well, you write it down. Step 1, write the date. Step 2, record the exact words. Step 3, note exactly how it made you feel. The intention behind this is crucial, though. Listen closely. You are not writing this down to build a case to prove to the manipulator that you're right. Don't do that. They won't validate it anyway. You are doing this strictly to protect your own grip on reality. Because the moment you take away your self-doubt, their control completely evaporates.
Okay, moving on to a tactic that's literally so precise, it requires a clinical acronym, DARVO. That stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender. Have you ever calmly brought up a boundary that was crossed, and before you even finish your sentence, the entire conversation just flips? Suddenly, they never did it. How dare you accuse them of that? And actually, you're the one attacking them. You walk into the room with a legitimate hurt, and somehow, crazy enough, you walk out apologizing to them.
And this right here perfectly illustrates why DARVO is just so devastatingly effective. It literally weaponizes your own empathy. The bait is their sudden, intense distress. Because you are a good, caring person, your empathy kicks right in, and you drop your original point to manage their reaction. Suddenly, the room becomes emotionally expensive. The data, the actual boundary you came to discuss in the first place, gets completely buried. DARVO only works when it creates enough chaos to make you lose your thread.
So to counter DARVO, you have to keep the thread. You cannot let go of it. Here is the exact, resolute script I want you to try using. I hear that you're upset, and I still need to finish what I came here to talk about. Boom. You anchor yourself to the original point. You don't abandon your boundary, and you absolutely refuse to get pulled into defending your tone or your timing. You just hold the line.
Now, this dynamic seamlessly fuels our next tactic, which is guilt tripping. You know, nobody actually announces they're going to manipulate you, right? They just sigh and say, "It's fine. I just thought after everything I've done for you, it wouldn't be too much to ask." It quietly repositions you as failing or being ungrateful. The crucial countermeasure here is understanding the stark difference between two types of guilt. Genuine guilt comes from violating your own personal values, but manufactured guilt, that comes entirely from someone else's agenda. Their disappointment is simply not yours to fix.
Next up is the silent treatment. And look, I want to be super clear here. Taking a pause to cool down during an argument, that's totally healthy. But the silent treatment is absolutely not a peaceful pause. It is a cold withdrawal, used strictly as a punishment. It's designed to exploit our very human need for resolution. Let's be real. Most empathetic people would rather apologize for something they didn't even do than sit inside that unbearable, icy silence for one more day. You soften, You bend, and guess what? You teach them that silence works.
So we break that cycle by naming the silence, without chasing it. This is your go-to tool. You say, I'm open to talking when you're ready, but I won't be punished into compliance. And then you actually have to hold that boundary. You don't spiral, you don't perform some fake remorse just to end your own discomfort. When you flat out refuse to chase the silence, the manipulator quickly learns this tactic no longer yields results.
Okay, let's dive into triangulation. This is when suddenly a conflict isn't just between you and them anymore. They introduce a third party. Maybe it's a friend who supposedly agrees with them, a family member who thinks you're the problem, or even just an unnamed group of people who apparently all share the same concern about you. This shifts a two-person conversation into a verdict, where you feel outnumbered by an implied audience. It's specifically designed to make your voice feel incredibly small.
Here's exactly how you pull that triangle apart. You completely refuse to defend yourself to a phantom audience. You bring it right back to the only dynamic that actually matters, using this phrase, "If you have an issue with me, I'm right here. Let's talk about it directly." Anyone who refuses that simple, direct request is showing you very clearly that they aren't looking for a resolution. They are just looking for leverage.
Now, what makes these next tactics so incredibly dangerous is that, honestly, they don't feel like manipulation at all. They feel like incredible, addictive hope. It starts with love bombing, which creates this intense early adoration, totally skipping the foundation of real connection. Then, intermittent reinforcement kicks in. They go cold, then warm, then cold again. It acts exactly like a slot machine. Those random rewards flood your brain with dopamine. Before you know it, you start organizing your entire emotional life around earning their warmth and just avoiding their coldness.
It's time to step out of the casino. Really, stop measuring the relationship by its absolute best days. Anyone can be wonderful sometimes, right? The real question you need to ask is, how do you feel on a regular Tuesday? Real connection doesn't rush you, and it certainly doesn't leave you starving. Consistency isn't always glamorous, for sure, but consistency is literally the only currency that is actually real.
Now, all of these tactics are often supported by 3 structural deflection methods designed to basically just keep you exhausted. First up, future faking. They promise the apartment, the trip, the radically changed behavior. But promises are just words. Follow through is data. Second, moving the goalposts. You do exactly what they ask, but suddenly the standard changes. You're kept in a permanent state of being not quite enough, making you super compliant and exhausted. And third, blame shifting. It's their mistake, but within seconds, they completely untangle the logic so that it's entirely your fault. All 3 of these just keep you totally off balance. Your boundary for all of these shifting targets is a simple, incredibly calm anchor. You just say, that's a separate conversation. Right now, I'm talking about this specific thing. You don't even need to raise your voice. You simply refuse to accept their privately revised standards, and you utterly refuse to be rerouted into some convoluted backstory about how their mistake is somehow your fault. We're nearing the end of our session today, and before we wrap up, I want to look at 2 highly elegant, very quiet tactics. First is weaponized incompetence. This is a strategic failure. They handle a shared responsibility so badly that you just roll your eyes, step in, and do it yourself to avoid the fight. They absorb the freedom, you absorb the labor. Playing the victim is very similar. The moment you ask for accountability, they bring up their difficult history and their pain. Both of these tactics treat your beautiful empathy as a vulnerability, finding ways to dodge accountability without ever raising a voice.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is changing the system. Step 1. You literally have to let the tasks fail sometimes. When there are actual real-world consequences for tasks left undone, accountability finally has somewhere to land. Step 2. You must hold compassion and truth simultaneously. You can genuinely care about someone's history of pain and still entirely refuse to let it silence your boundaries. Accountability is not cruelty. I want you to remember that.
Clarity is what kills them. It really is. Every single technique we've explored today in this explainer, from gaslighting to DARVO to the silent treatment, they all live in the dark. They depend entirely on you doubting your own instincts. But guess what? You can't manipulate someone who can clearly see the chess move being made. The exact moment you can name what's happening, the entire dynamic shifts. You take your power back through clarity.
Because here's the truth. Your instincts have been telling you the truth for much, much longer than you've actually been listening to them. You are not uncertain anymore, and that changes absolutely everything. So now that you can see the game being played, which rule are you going to break first?